This is one of Fitness Blender's ab and oblique workouts. For this routine, you're going to need an exercise mat, a medicine ball, dumbbell, or some other weighted object. We're going to be going through 3 rounds of 10 different exercises. It's going to take us about 32 minutes total. Let's go ahead and get started with round number 1. Our first exercise is the T stabilization. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. Starting from a full push-up position, you're going to nice and slow lift one hand off the ground, opening it up out to the side, trying to get a nice straight line from one wrist to another, straight through your chest, keeping those hips up nice and high. And slowly rotate back, switch over to the other side, and do the same motion using the other hand. Now the idea of this motion is to actually challenge your balance, so those core muscles have to work really hard. So if this isn't hard enough for you, then you're going to start bringing those feet closer and closer together. The narrower you have those feet, the harder it's going to be for that balance. Now the hardest version of this, which should be your ultimate goal, is to keep those feet completely pinned together, and as you lift that arm up out to the side to open that chest up, you're actually going to lay those feet off to the side so that bottom foot is actually laying over onto the outside edge of that foot from heel to toe. You're going to hold that balance there for just a second, and then you're going to switch over and do the same thing on the other side. Now after doing a lot of these repetitions, those core muscles are going to start getting tired, and those hips are going to want to start drooping down a little bit. So keep checking your form, making sure you're keeping a nice straight line from your shoulder all the way down to your heel, whether you're in that push-up position or out on that side plank. Alright, you're almost done. Just one more on each side. And last one facing the opposite direction. And let it relax. Alright, let's move on to the next one. This is the boxer squat and punch. You need either a pair of dumbbells for this one, or you can even use water bottles or canned food, something like that, just a little bit of weight. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. Get a nice deep squat. Then as you come up, you're going to rotate and punch with one arm out to the side, slowly coming back down into that squat, then off to the opposite direction, punching with that opposite arm. Now keep that motion nice and slow under control. You don't want to actually feel like you're punching with that hand, because that could actually injure your elbow and your shoulder, especially when you're doing it with weight. So nice, slow, controlled motions. Just extend that arm out to a full extension and slowly draw it back in as you drop down into that squat. Just keep that motion going, nice and slow under control. Try to get as much rotation out of that torso as you possibly can, getting a really nice tight squeeze on those obliques every single time you rotate, as well as trying to get a really nice deep squat. Almost done, just one more on each side. And there's your last one right there. Go ahead and let it relax. We're going to move on to the Captain Morgan up and overs. Go ahead and grab a dumbbell for this one, or a medicine ball, just something else that's heavy. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. One leg comes up really nice and high. You want to try to keep that knee at least hip height, higher if you can. And then with that dumbbell or that medicine ball, you're just going to rotate left to right. Now at first it's going to be really challenging for balance to stand up with that knee like that. Rotating back and forth that weight's going to try to throw your center of gravity off. But as you get more and more comfortable, try to rotate those shoulders more and more to get more work out of those obliques. The more of a rotation you get in those shoulders without rotating those hips, the more work those obliques and those abs have to do to keep your balance. Just nice, slow, controlled motion. You don't need to move quickly. Just try to exaggerate that motion. One more back. And let it relax. All right, we're going to switch sides. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. That opposite knee comes up. Again, you want it at least hip height, higher if you can. Then you're going to draw that dumbbell from one side up to your chest and then slowly back down to the other, really challenging that balance and challenging those core muscles the entire time, because that center of gravity is going to constantly change as you move that dumbbell back and forth. Now just keep that motion going nice and slow under control. Almost done. Just one more on each side. And back over. And let it relax. All right, moving on to the next one. This is the back bow crossovers. Go ahead and lay down flat on your stomach for this one. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. Now you're going to start with your arms and legs laid off to the left side. Then nice and slow, lift both those arms and legs up nice and high, coming up to the center. Then slowly drop down off to the right side using those obliques on that right side to really pull you over. Then slowly come back up, nice and centered. Then slowly back down as you squeeze off to the left side, using that oblique on the left side to pull both those legs and those arms off to the left. Then nice and slow, reverse it back again. Now not only do you want to focus on that lower back and those glutes to lift those arms and legs up really nice and high, but you also want to focus on those obliques to try to get you twisted to the side, crunching to the side as much as possible on each motion. Just one left, and let it relax. All right, let's move on to the next one. This is the crisscross crunch. You're going to be laying flat on your back for this one. One leg extended out, one knee directly above that hip. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. Extend one leg out straight. The other one's going to stay right above that hip. Alternating back and forth, crunching sideways, pulling that left elbow up to that right knee and that right elbow up to that left knee, just crossing it back and forth. Now, if you want to make these harder, you're actually going to focus on making sure that you don't let that knee come in past that hip joint. So as you draw it in, crunching that elbow up towards that knee, don't let that knee come in past your hip. So it's going to stop directly above that hip joint. You have to come further up with that elbow to actually make contact, and then nice and slow back out, extending that leg back out makes those abs have to work a lot harder, makes those obliques have to work a lot harder. We're almost done. And let it relax. All right, moving on to the next one. These are the plank tucks. We're going to be doing these actually from a push-up position. So go ahead and flip over onto your stomach for this. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. Going to that full push-up position on those hands and toes. You're going to pull one knee underneath your body, kicking it off to the side, rotating those hips as best you can, but trying to keep those shoulders as even as possible. They're going to kick a little bit on you, but you want to try to keep them as flat as possible to make those obliques have to work harder. Just keep that motion going nice and slow, lifting one knee at a time, pulling it underneath your body, rotating those hips as much as possible, get a nice tight squeeze on those obliques, those abs, making those legs have to work as well. Almost done, just one more on each side. And let it relax. All right, moving on to the next one. Back on your back again. This is the butterfly crunches. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. Place those feet together, bottom of those feet pushing together, lay those knees off to the side, then perform a traditional crunch. Hands back behind your head. Make sure you're not pulling on that head, just hands back there. Nice tight squeeze coming up, trying to keep those abs contracted the entire time. Slowly lay back down, but don't let those abs completely release. Then crunch it right back up. The main thing you're focusing on is just trying to get those shoulder blades up off the ground as high as possible. Trying to get as much of that rib cage up without actually doing a full sit-up. You don't want to actually come up onto that tailbone. You want to just round up onto that lower back and then slowly come back down. Main thing, getting those shoulder blades up. Almost done. And there's your last one right there. Go ahead and let it relax. All right, moving on to the next one. This is a side crunch. We're doing a side plank, so go ahead and turn onto your left side first. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. On that elbow and knee, bring those hips up nice and high. Extend that left leg and left arm directly out in opposite directions. Then nice and slow, crunch them down towards each other, getting a nice tight squeeze on those obliques, and then slowly extend them right back out. So those hips are going to drop just a little bit as you squeeze that oblique, trying to pull that shoulder down into that hip, so that left shoulder is going down towards that left hip, and then nice and slow, extend it back out, and then draw it right back in again. Just keep that motion going, but maintain that height on those hips. Try to keep them up as high as you can the entire time. Almost done. And there's your last one right there. Go ahead and let it relax. We're going to switch sides. We're going to do the same exact motion, this time on that left side using that right arm and right hand. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. Coming up on that left side, extending that right arm and right leg out, slowly crunching that elbow and knee down towards each other, pulling that shoulder and hip towards each other, getting a nice tight squeeze on that oblique, and then extending it right back out. Like I said, just make sure you're trying to keep those hips nice and high the entire time. They're going to dip a little bit on you as you crunch in sideways, but try to keep them up nice and high. Make that oblique on the bottom side have to work at the same time. Almost done, just 2 more. And squeeze it down one more time, extend it out, and let it relax. All right, that was the end of round number 1. Go ahead and pause it here if you need to. Otherwise, we're going to start right back into round number 2. Let's go ahead and start back over with the T stabilizations, starting in that push-up position. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. Come up onto those hands and toes, nice and slow, lifting one hand off the ground, opening that chest up, getting a nice straight line from wrist to wrist, and slowly back down, alternating over to the other side, and lifting that opposite arm up. Remember, the harder version of this is just bringing those feet in closer and closer together, and then starting to rock those feet from side to side. Just keep that motion going nice and slow under control. Keep those hips up nice and high, really keeping a nice tight core. Almost done, just one more on each side. And back over facing the opposite direction. And let it relax. All right, moving on to the next one. This is the boxer squat and punch. Remember, you need either dumbbells or maybe some water bottles for this one, just a little bit of extra weight in those hands. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. Nice deep squat in the middle, then rotate as you come up, twisting at that torso, crossing over your body with one of those hands, extending that dumbbell out, then slowly bring it back, dropping back down into that squat, then rotate off to the opposite direction. Just keep going back and forth, try to get as much of a rotation as you can, really trying to challenge those obliques. Almost done, just one more on each side. And let it relax. All right, moving on to the next one. This is the Captain Morgan up and over. Go ahead and grab one dumbbell or a medicine ball for this one. Get ready. And begin. Bring that left knee up really nice and high. Remember, just as high as that hip joint or higher if you can. Then slowly take that dumbbell or that medicine ball from the outside of one hip up to your chest and then down to the outside of the opposite hip. Just keep alternating back and forth, trying to keep that balance as best you can. Like I said, as you get more comfortable, you want to start trying to rotate those shoulders more, trying to get a really good twist to that torso, making those obliques really have to work hard. Also, the heavier weight you use, the more those core muscles, that lower back, those abs and those obliques, have to work to keep you stabilized as that weight shifts back and forth and moves your center of gravity. We're almost done. Got one more on each side. Bring it back over. And let it relax. All right, go ahead and switch sides. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. Bring that right knee up really nice and high, at least hip height or higher. Then start moving that medicine ball or that dumbbell back and forth from the outside of one hip up to your chest and down to the outside of the other hip. Just keep that motion going, trying to get as much rotation to that torso as you possibly can. Just one more on each side. Back to the other side. And let it relax. All right, go ahead and move on to the next one. Flat down on your stomach for this one. This is the back bow crossover. Get ready. And begin. Starting with that torso crunched off to the right side with those arms and legs out straight. Slowly contract those back and butt muscles, lifting those arms and legs up nice and straight, centering your body. Then slowly contract with that left oblique, pulling your body off to the left side, slowly dropping it down to the ground. Then reverse that direction, back over. Now we're using a dumbbell here as a marker point of where center is, and also as a height marker to try to get your arms and legs up really nice and high. You can use a dumbbell for this, or a yoga block turned on its side, or even a stack of books if you want to. Almost done. And one more back over. And let it relax. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. This is the crisscross crunch. Go ahead and flip over on your back for this. And get ready. And begin. One leg goes extended out straight, the other leg tucks in. You're going to crunch across sideways, trying to get to that knee. And nice and slow, lay back again, alternating those legs, coming across that opposite elbow. So left elbow, right knee, right elbow, left knee. Trying to get those shoulders up off the ground as high as you can, at the same time as rotating that torso as much as possible. Just keep that motion going, get a tight squeeze to those obliques and those abdominal muscles. Almost done, just one more on each side. Back to the other, and let it relax. All right, moving on to the next one. This is the plank tucks. Starting up in that push-up position. Get ready. And begin. Out on those hands and toes. Bring those knees up off the ground and get a nice straight line from shoulder down to ankle. Then you're going to tuck one knee underneath you, rotating those hips, trying to get that torso to twist as much as possible. Remember, try to keep those shoulders relatively level. You're going to want to try to dip them a little bit, and you're going to need to dip them a little bit for extra range of motion, but try to keep them as level as possible and rotate those hips as much as you can, trying to get a really tight squeeze to those obliques. Almost done, just 2 more repetitions. Your last one right there. And let it relax. All right, moving on to the next one. This is the butterfly crunch. Go ahead and lay on your back for this one. Remember, feet together, knees out to the side. Get ready. And begin. Feet come together, those knees lay out, hands back behind your head, just like a traditional crunch. Squeezing those abdominal muscles, trying to peel those shoulder blades up off the ground as high as you possibly can. Hands back behind your head, but not actually pulling on your head. You want those elbows as far out of your field of vision as you possibly can. It makes it harder to actually push those elbows back more. Keep that motion going, under control, tight squeezes every single time, trying to keep those abs contracted throughout the entire range of motion, even when you lay back. Two more repetitions. Here's your last one, tight squeeze, and let it relax. All right, moving on to the next one. This is the side cinchers. We're going to start up on that right side, moving that left arm and leg. Get ready. And begin. Bring those hips up nice and high, nice straight line from that shoulder to that knee. Left arm and leg are going to be extended out nice and straight in opposite directions. Then pull that elbow and knee in together, nice tight squeeze, crunching with that left oblique, that top oblique. Then nice and slow, extend it back out, and repeat the motion. Just keep it going nice and slow under control, and make sure you're keeping those hips up nice and high. Two more repetitions. And your last one, squeeze it in nice and tight, and let it relax. Alright, go ahead and switch sides. We're going to do the same exact motion, this time propped up on your left, moving that right arm and leg. Get ready. And begin. Bring those hips up nice and high, straight line from that shoulder down to that knee. And then take that right elbow, right knee, pulling them in together, tight squeeze that right oblique, then extend them right back out and repeat the motion. Just keep those hips really high. Make sure they don't droop as those obliques start getting tired. Almost done, just two more repetitions. Nice tight squeeze and extend it out one more time and let it relax. Alright, that was the end of round number 2. You can pause it here if you need to, otherwise we're going to move right into round number 3. Let's start it back over with the T stabilizations. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. Start up in that full push-up position on those hands and toes. Slowly draw one hand off the ground, opening that chest up out to the side. Try to get a nice straight line from wrist to wrist. Then slowly back down, alternating over to the other side, doing the same motion, just lifting that opposite hand. Continue switching back and forth, trying to get a nice full range of motion out of it, trying to get a nice long pause on each side. And remember, if you want to make it harder, just bring those feet closer together. Start rocking those feet side to side. Almost done, just one more on each side. And last one back over. Short pause. And let it relax. All right, let's move on to the next one. This is the boxer squat and punch. Go ahead and grab some dumbbells or some water bottles. Just a little extra weight in those hands. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. Get a nice low squat. Then as you come up, rotate those shoulders, rotate through that torso, extending one hand across your body, extending that dumbbell out. Then slowly bring it back down into that squat, and then reverse it over on the other side. Just keep that motion going under control, getting a nice rotation every single time, trying to really exaggerate that motion, rotating those shoulders, really focusing on all those core muscles, but especially targeting those obliques. Almost done, just one more on each side. It's your last one right here. And let it relax. Alright, we're going to move on to the Captain Morgan up and overs. Remember, you're going to need a dumbbell or a medicine ball for this one. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. Bring that left knee up really nice and high. You want it at least hip height, higher if you can. Then start alternating that dumbbell back and forth from the outside of one hip up to your chest, and then down to the outside of the other hip and back. Just keep that motion going under control, trying to rotate those shoulders as best you can. The further you rotate, the more you're going to engage those obliques. Almost done. One more on each side. Back over. And let it relax. All right, we're going to switch sides, do the same thing on the other side. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. Bring that right knee up really nice and high. Again, about hip height or higher. Then start alternating that dumbbell back and forth from side to side. And keep in mind, the heavier that dumbbell is, the harder it's going to be to keep that balance. As you shift that weight back and forth, that center of gravity is going to shift back and forth. Those core muscles have to work harder to keep that balance. Now keep focusing on that motion. Make sure that knee's staying up really nice and high. Just keep that motion under control. Almost done. Just one more on each side. And back over. And let it relax. All right, moving on to the next one. This is the back bow crossover. Go ahead and lay down flat on your stomach for this one. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. Starting over on that right side, crunching with that right oblique. Lift those arms and legs up off the ground. Keep them nice and straight. Then slowly center your body, keeping those arms and legs up really nice and high. Then contract that left oblique, slowly dropping back down off to that left side. And then reverse that direction back over to the right. Just keep it going nice and slow under control, really trying to get those arms and legs up there nice and high at the center every single time. Just one more on each side. Slowly bring it back and let it release. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one, the crisscross crunches. Flip over on your back. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. Extending one leg out, pulling the other knee in, crossing over to that knee with that opposite elbow, and then switching sides. Just keep alternating back and forth, left elbow to right elbow to left knee, getting a nice tight squeeze on those abdominal muscles, as well as a nice tight squeeze on those obliques, trying to rotate those shoulders every single time. So you want to try to get both shoulder blades up off the ground as best you can, as well as getting a nice tight rotation through those obliques. Almost done. One more on each side. And let it relax. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. This is the plank tucks. Go ahead and come up into that full push-up position. Get ready. And begin. Coming up onto those hands and toes in that full push-up position. Tuck one knee underneath you, rotating those hips over as far as you can, slightly dropping them, then slowly pushing back out to that full push-up position. Then repeating on the opposite leg. Just keep alternating back and forth. Make sure those hips stay really nice and high when you're back in that push-up position. Don't let them come up too high. You want to keep a nice straight line from that shoulder all the way down to that ankle. Rotating those hips as far as you can every time you pull that knee underneath. Trying to keep those shoulders as level as possible. One more on each side. Last one on the other side. And let it relax. All right, let's move on to the next one. This is the butterfly crunch. Go ahead and lay on your back, feet together, knee out to the side. Get ready. And begin. Place those feet together, drop those knees off, hands behind your head, then nice and slow, crunch up, get a nice tight squeeze on those abdominal muscles, then slowly lay back again. Make sure those abdominal muscles stay completely contracted the entire time. Even when you lay back, you never want to let them release. Also, as you crunch forward, your goal is to try to get those shoulder blades all the way up off the ground. To make it a little bit more difficult, make sure you're keeping those elbows back outside of your field of vision. If you really want to make it harder, you can always go grab a dumbbell, place it above your head just to add a little extra weight as you try to crunch up. Almost done, 2 left. Tight squeeze. And there's your last one right there. Go ahead and let it relax. Moving on to the next one, this is the side cinchers. Go ahead and come up onto that right elbow and right knee, getting those hips up nice and high. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. Bring those hips up, get a nice straight line from that right shoulder down to that right knee. Extend that left arm and leg out nice and straight. And slowly pull that knee and elbow back together, getting a tight squeeze on that left oblique, that top oblique. Then extend that arm and leg back out. Just keep that motion going nice and slow under control, getting a tight squeeze every single time you pull in, making sure you're keeping those hips up high. Almost done, 2 left. Your last one, tight squeeze, extend it out, and let it relax. All right, go ahead and switch sides. We're going to do the same exact motion on the opposite side. This is your last exercise. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. Bring that hip up really nice and high, this time pulling that right arm and leg in, squeezing them together, getting a tight squeeze on that oblique, then extending them back out, full extension, and then pull them right back in. Just keep that motion going, alternating back and forth, making sure you're keeping those hips nice and high. Almost done, just 2 more. Last one, tight squeeze, extend that arm and leg, and let it relax. All right, good job. You just completed Fitness Blender's ab and oblique workout.